Welcome to today's deep dive. I am your host, and I'm thrilled to be kicking off today's discussion.
And I am your resident tech expert, ready to get into the weeds on, honestly, a pretty wild topic today.
It really is. To start off, it's Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, and I want you, the listener, to just picture a setting for a moment.
Okay, set the scene for us.
We are in Transylvania, Romania.
Oh, I know exactly where your mind is going with that.
Right. It's kind of impossible not to go there. You say the word Transylvania, and your brain just immediately cues up the mist-covered mountains.
The Gothic castles.
Exactly. Maybe a bat or two fluttering around a belfry. It is literally the ultimate setting for a classic horror novel. You almost expect to hear thunder rolling in the background.
It really does have that heavy historic atmosphere. It's so ingrained in pop culture. But what we're actually looking at today flips that entire reputation completely on its head.
It really does. Transylvania is not serving as the backdrop for a ghost story here. As of today, it is the setting for a massive futuristic leap in how human beings learn.
Yeah, we are looking at a story today that feels a lot less like Bram Stoker and a lot more like, well, distinctively sci-fi.
Definitely sci-fi. We are talking about the official launch of a global virtual campus. And I want to be clear right off the top for you listening, because I think people hear virtual campus and they immediately think of those clunky video classes from a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, where everyone was just a black square on a screen
Yeah.
and someone's always muted.
Right, or just a glorified website with a list of downloadable PDFs. That is not what we are talking about today.
Not at all.
This is a full merger of artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality. It's kind of the meta-university concept actually coming to life.
It's a true convergence because, we often talk about these technologies in silos. We say, well, here's what AI is doing over here and here's what VR is doing over there. But today, with this launch, we're seeing them fused into a single cohesive educational ecosystem.
So on today's deep dive, we have a bunch of fresh source material regarding an announcement involving the University of Oradea.
Which represents the tradition side of things.
Right, and their partnership with a California-based heavyweight called EON Reality. So our mission today is to really unpack this. We want to understand how this concept of extended reality, or XR, is reshaping the very definition of a university.
Moving away from physical lecture halls with uncomfortable wooden seats into immersive, AI-driven digital spaces.
So let's ground this before we get too lost in the matrix, so to speak. We have two very different players shaking hands here. First, let's look at the University of Oradea.
Yeah, and for those who might not follow the European academic scene super closely, it is really important to note that this isn't some pop-up online school. The University of Oradea is a serious, established, fully accredited public university.
They are a major cornerstone of that region in northwestern Romania.
Exactly. They've got deep history, centuries of tradition in the region. They boast 15 faculties, a huge range of programs, bachelor's, master's, doctoral degrees. They are the real deal.
Which honestly makes the partnership even more interesting to me, because usually when you see these radical tech experiments, they're coming from brand new startups or, experimental alternative schools.
Right.
But here you have an actual guardian of tradition standing up and saying, it's time to upgrade.
And they didn't just try to build this in-house in their IT department. They went out and found a partner with serious muscle, EON Reality.
Who are based in Irvine, California.
They are. And when you look at the landscape of ed tech, EON Reality is a massive player. Industry insiders describe them as the world leader in AI-assisted virtual reality and augmented reality knowledge transfer.
Now, knowledge transfer, that is a very specific phrase. It sounds a lot more functional and mechanical than just education.
It really is. It implies efficiency, right? It implies moving information from a source to a learner in the absolute most direct way possible. And EON has the scale to actually back that up.
Because they've been doing this a while.
Over 25 years of experience. They have a presence on 6 continents. So this is definitely not their first rodeo. They've been refining their platform, which they call EON-XR, for a very long time.
Okay, so you have this traditional European university shaking hands with a Californian tech giant. And today, February 24th, 2026, they have officially flipped the switch on the global virtual campus.
And the key phrase from the announcement that really stuck out to me was immersive learning and experiential learning at scale.
Yes, At scale is the part that does the heavy lifting there, because we've all seen VR demos before. You go to a tech conference, you put on the headset, you look at a floating 3D dinosaur, you say, wow, cool.
And then you take it off and go back to your spreadsheet.
Exactly. It's usually just a novelty, a one-off experience.
But this claims to be an entire campus infrastructure. It's utilizing that EON-XR platform to create a consistent, persistent environment. It's not a demo. It's a platform where students can access global academic resources day in and day out.
They are weaving that immersion into the actual daily curriculum, which just sounds incredibly futuristic. I mean, we are talking about a virtual campus. So does that mean I show up to class in my pajamas, but my avatar is wearing a tuxedo?
Well, the exact fashion choices of the avatars weren't specified in the source report, that I am sure students will figure that out pretty quickly. But the technology behind it is dead serious.
Right.
While the sci-fi aesthetics are fun to think about, we really need to look at the utility here. This is about AI, immersive 3D environments, and interactive virtual laboratories. It is fundamentally about taking the friction out of learning complex subjects.
Okay, let's unpack that friction point, because AI is a buzzword we hear constantly now. Oh, this toaster has AI, my socks have AI.
Right.
But in this global virtual campus, what is the AI actually doing? Is it just grading multiple choice quizzes in the background?
No, and that is the huge differentiator here. The AI is the engine. The source material highlights that artificial intelligence is central to the delivery of the education itself.
This is the part of the source material that actually blew my mind a little bit. They specifically mentioned AI-powered teaching assistants and avatars.
Yes, and we need to distinguish this from the chatbots of just a few years ago. You know, the little text bubble that pops up on a website and gives you a canned answer?
Yeah, the ones that never actually understand your question.
Exactly. These avatars are capable of actually delivering lessons. But more importantly, the documentation states they can adapt content to individual learners.
Which is the holy grail of education, isn't it? Personalized learning for everyone.
It is. Think about the logistics of a traditional physical university. You are sitting in a lecture hall with 300 other people. The professor delivers one lecture at one single speed.
Right.
If you already know the material, you're bored and you tune out. If you are confused and falling behind, you also tune out.
And the professor can't just stop the class for you. They have a syllabus they have to get through by December.
Precisely. But an AI avatar does not have that limitation. It creates a one-to-one relationship with every single student simultaneously. It can literally pace the information based on how the student is responding.
So if I'm struggling with a concept, say, thermodynamics, the avatar realizes I'm not getting it.
Theoretically, yes. It could slow down, offer a different analogy, or even pull up an entirely different 3D visualization to explain it. It adapts to your specific learning curve in real time. It is the difference between a broadcast and an actual conversation.
That is just incredible. And on the flip side of the coin, for the actual professors, the sources mention automated content creation, which seems like a huge win for the teachers themselves, right?
Massive. Think about the daily workload of a modern professor. A huge chunk of their time is spent on administration and content generation.
Making slide decks.
Making slide decks, finding images, building out lesson plans. It is incredibly time-consuming. The system here streamlines the development of those lessons.
So it allows the educators to generate these immersive experiences without needing to be like computer programmers.
Exactly. It's a low-code or even no-code environment. A biology professor can build a virtual dissection lab without knowing how to code in C++-AN. That lowers the barrier to entry significantly. It means the subject matter expert remains in control of the class, not the IT department.
And for the student, there's another feature they highlighted that ties into this. Real-time performance feedback. That feels like a game changer to me. I remember in college waiting 2 weeks to get a quiz back with a red mark on it. By then, I didn't even care anymore.
Right, because immediate correction is essential for memory retention. We know this from cognitive science. If you make a mistake in a simulation and you are corrected instantly, you learn. Your brain rewires that connection right then and there.
But if you find out 2 weeks later,
The moment has passed. The actual learning opportunity is lost.
now I can hear the skeptics and maybe some nervous professors listening to this right now and asking, okay, if the AI is teaching the class and the AI is grading the work, what happens to the humans? Are the professors at the University of Oradea updating their resumes right now?
That's a very valid concern, and it comes up basically every time we discuss AI automation. But the source material addresses this directly. EON Reality argues that this technology actually frees up the educators.
How so?
By handling the basic content delivery, the repetitive lecturing and the rote grading, it allows the human professors to shift their focus
Shift it to what? Exact.
to mentorship, to critical thinking, to research innovation, the exact things AI is not great at yet. AI is fantastic at transferring facts. It is not great at inspiring a student to look at a problem in a completely new way or guiding them through a crisis of confidence.
So the AI handling the what and the how, and the human professor handles the why.
That is a brilliant way to put it. There's actually a quote from Professor Dr. Christian Grava. He is with the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Information Technology at Oradea.
Right, I saw that.
He noted that since their very first contact with this tech, it has evolved significantly. He specifically pointed out the integration of artificial intelligence as the game changer. It's not just static VR anymore. It is smart VR.
It's smart, and it is highly immersive. Let's talk about what the student actually sees when they log in. Because for me, this is where the real aha moment is. It's the difference between reading and doing. They use the phrase immersive 3D virtual laboratories.
This is where we fully move from theory to practice.
Yeah.
Imagine you are an engineering student. In the physical world, access to a high-end lab is a massive bottleneck.
Because of the expensive equipment?
Very expensive, dangerous sometimes, and limited hours. Maybe there are only 3 stations and 50 students. You have to book time. You have to be terrified of breaking something.
Yeah, I was terrible in chemistry labs. I broke so many beakers. I probably cost my school a fortune. I'm pretty sure they banned me from the glassware aisle eventually.
Well, the beauty of a virtual lab is you can break as many beakers as you want. These are hands-on simulations across disciplines. It is essentially a safe, infinite sandbox for the student.
And the goal stated in the source is to make learning more engaging for students, which makes total sense. I would much rather blow up a virtual car engine to see how it works than read a static textbook description of a piston.
It comes down to active learning versus passive learning. When you read a text, your brain has to work incredibly hard to visualize the concept. You are doing the heavy lifting of translation.
Right.
But when you are inside a 3D simulation, you are experiencing the concept spatially.
Spatially.
Yes. We are inherently spatial creatures. We remember places and physical objects way better than we remember lists of abstract words. By placing knowledge in a 3D environment, you are basically hacking the brain's natural ability to map the world. You remember where the spark plug goes because you actually put it there with your own virtual hands.
That is fascinating. So it isn't just cooler to look at, it is actually stickier for the brain.
Exactly. But there's another layer to this being a global campus. It's the multilingual, scalable learning infrastructure.
Let's talk about the multilingual part.
Because it's a digital platform, language barriers become significantly lower. The platform allows for cross-border collaboration. Students aren't just accessing the resources on the hard drives locally in Oradea. They are tapping into what the source describes as international educational ecosystems.
So, practically speaking, a student sitting in Romania could be collaborating on a virtual physics experiment with a student in, I don't know, Singapore, utilizing the exact same 3D model.
Exactly that, and doing it in a shared immersive digital space. The AI can even facilitate the translation. So you are working on the same engine, seeing the same parts move, but receiving the instruction or the interface text in your own native language.
Now, that is true globalization of the classroom, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Because I always want to know, is this just cool tech for the sake of cool tech? What is the practical benefit of having a 3D avatar teach me physics? Does it actually help me get a job when I graduate?
That is absolutely the right question to ask. And the source material connects this explicitly to workforce training readiness.
Workforce readiness.
Think about the modern workplace today. It is digital. It is often remote. It involves highly complex systems. If you are going into manufacturing or medicine or architecture, you are going to be using these exact kinds of digital tools.
Yeah, that's true.
By utilizing these simulations now, the university isn't just teaching the academic subject matter, they're literally training students to operate smoothly in a digital, augmented environment.
So if you are training to be a surgeon, you aren't just reading about the valves of the heart. You are stepping inside a beating 3D model of the heart. You are practicing the adaptability that the real job requires.
Precisely. It bridges that terrifying gap between academic theory and professional application. You aren't shocked by the technology when you show up to your first job because you have spent the last 4 years immersed in it.
I want to zoom out a bit to the broader strategic vision here, because the University of Oradea isn't doing this quietly. They are making a very big statement.
They definitely are. The rector of the university, Konstantin Bunga, was very clear about this. He stated plainly, this is the future. He sees this launch as aligning perfectly with the university's broader modernization strategy. They clearly don't want to just play catch-up. They want to lead the pack.
It is a really bold move for a public university. Usually, public institutions move a bit slower.
It is. And then you bring in the perspective of Dan Lajerskar, the chairman of EON Reality. He did not mince words either.
No, I saw his quotes in the source. He is known for having a pretty bold vision.
His guiding motto is learn, train, perform.
Right.
But the key takeaway from his statement, the one that really stood out, was when he said they are building the largest university in the world.
The largest university in the world. That is a massive, massive claim. Because when I hear largest university, my mind immediately goes to sprawling physical campuses, tens of thousands of dorm rooms, massive football stadiums.
And that is exactly the old metric. He's not talking about pouring more concrete or building brick-and-mortar classrooms. He's talking about reach. He's talking about scalability. In the digital realm, there is functionally no limit to class size.
Right. If the lecture is being delivered by an AI avatar in a virtual room, you can have 10 students or you can have 10 million students. The cost of delivery is roughly the same.
Exactly. There is no shortage of virtual dorm rooms in the metaverse. You don't have to build parking garages for avatars.
And he also mentioned something else that caught my eye. He claimed that this platform makes professors more productive.
Which loops right back to our earlier point about AI handling the grunt work. If a single professor can reach 10 times the number of students with the help of AI avatars and automated content creation, the productivity, at least in terms of knowledge transfer, just skyrockets.
Right.
They're amplifying their personal impact. One leading expert can now theoretically teach the entire world.
It's just fascinating to see all of this happening in Transylvania. Because let's be honest, we usually hear about these massive tech launches happening in Silicon Valley or maybe Tokyo or Seoul.
That is a crucial point to bring up. This launch is viewed in the documentation as a major milestone for the Transylvania region's academic and technological development specifically. It positions the University of Oradea at the absolute forefront of global digital transformation.
It's a signal that high-end innovation isn't strictly restricted to the traditional tech hubs anymore.
It implies that geography itself is becoming less relevant for innovation. It can happen anywhere. There is a will and a strategy to modernize.
It's really putting Oradea on the map in a completely new way, not just for its centuries of history, but for its role in the future.
And that is the true power of technology like this. It democratizes access to elite tools. A student sitting in Oradea today now has access to the exact same caliber of AI and VR tools as a student sitting in Irvine, California.
That leveling of the playing field is perhaps the most important takeaway from all of this. It means raw talent can be nurtured anywhere, completely, regardless of the physical infrastructure available in their local town.
Absolutely. I think that's what makes this story so compelling. It is not just about the shiny new gadgets, it's about access. It is about taking a centuries-old institution and proving that it can pivot and embrace the cutting edge.
It proves that heritage and innovation aren't mutually exclusive. You can have the ivy-covered brick walls and the holographic labs operating at the exact same time.
Well said.
So let's recap what we're actually seeing here today. It is February 24th, 2026. The University of Oradea, in a major partnership with EON Reality, has officially flipped the switch on the global virtual campus.
Which is a platform completely driven by artificial intelligence, utilizing avatars to teach, and 3D virtual labs to let students experiment.
It is designed from the ground up to be multilingual, global, and infinitely scalable. It is moving the concept of education from open your textbook to page 40 to put on your headset and step inside the engine.
And it is doing all of this with the explicit goal of preparing students for a highly digital workforce, while simultaneously freeing up human professors to be mentors and researchers rather than just repetitive lecturers.
It really is a fundamental shift from passive learning to active, immersive simulation. And for you listening to this right now, whether you are a student, a working professional, or honestly just someone who loves learning, this matters because it changes the baseline expectation of education.
It completely raises the bar for what learning actually looks like. It suggests that in the near future, if you aren't simulating it, you aren't really learning it.
Yeah.
It challenges the very notion of what a class even is. Is it a specific time you show up? Is it a physical place you sit in? Or is it an interactive experience you can just download?
That is a profound shift in mindset. We all grew up thinking education was something you went to. This new model suggests education is something that comes to you in whatever format and speed you specifically need.
And that format is becoming increasingly immersive and indistinguishable from reality.
Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave everyone with. And this one is a bit of a brain twister based on everything we've just unpacked.
Let's hear it.
If a university can now fully exist as a global virtual campus with AI avatars that speak every language and state-of-the-art labs that exist strictly on a server,
Right.
and if students can collaborate from anywhere in the world as if they are sitting in the exact same room, does the physical location of a university even matter anymore?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Are we witnessing the birth of the true meta-university where the campus isn't a place you go to, but a layer of reality that is just everywhere at once?
It certainly seems like the physical walls are coming down.
Yeah.
We might genuinely be looking at a future where your alma mater lives entirely in the cloud and the campus is wherever you happen to be standing.
It's definitely something for you to think about the next time you walk past a traditional brick-and-mortar lecture hall. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.
It was a pleasure to break it down.
We will catch you on the next deep dive.